this webinar. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I hope that some of you go on to become civil servants, and I hope that some of you will also become Indian Foreign Service officers, meaning Indian diplomats. Of course, the topic that I have chosen, meaning that you have chosen because I had given a list of topics, is for someone who already knows a little bit about the civil services and the Indian Foreign Service. Nevertheless, I'll try to cover maybe in the Q&A session if you have got any doubts about the civil services or about the Indian Foreign Service in general, I'll cover that. Okay, and while the topic says that why role of diplomats will continue to grow, my topic is more in the Indian context, meaning I see a greater role for Indian Foreign Service officers, which is Indian diplomats. So before I tell you what the future would be of Indian diplomacy, I maybe I should tell you a little background of what the past has been. Actually, tomorrow is the 9th of October. It's the uh, IFS Day. We celebrate 9th of October as the IFS Day because in the year 1946, on 9th of October, the cabinet note for formation of Indian Foreign Service was formed. But diplomacy, even in India, we know, of course, the great Chanakya, but diplomacy in the world as such is a profession which has gone on for almost 4,000 years as a profession. And even in, say, 1400 BC, we have the evidence of the first diplomatic correspondence, what is known as the Amarna letters. This happened in the year 1400 BC. This is a diplomatic correspondence of the Egyptian kingdom. So we have record of diplomatic correspondence which is 3,500 years old, and diplomacy as such, if not 4,000, uh, at least 4,000 years old, if not 4,000, maybe even 5,000 years old, is the profession. So something which has survived for almost 4,000 or 5,000 years, by inertia, it will go on forever. If not forever, for near future, it will, of course, go on. So I see the role of diplomats more so for Indian diplomats increasing in future. So that's about the past of diplomacy. Sometimes, sometimes people ask me as diplomats, what do we do? Or as Indian Foreign Service officers, what is the role that we play when we are posted abroad or when we are working in the Ministry of External Affairs in India? Because many people, while they know about the IAS or the IPS or the custom services, because these civil services are home-based civil services. So you get to interact with an IAS officer or IPS officer on a day-to-day basis. Even if you are living in a small place, you get to see their work. But not many people know about. There's some disturbance. Am I audible?
Sir.
Yeah, maybe the principal will have to switch off his audio, because if two audio are on, then I think there's some disturbance. May I request the principal to switch off his audio, or others also? Okay, thanks. I think, okay, now it's better. Okay, so people keep on asking what is the role that Indian Foreign Service officers play when they are posted abroad. While the role is very vast, I thought I'll divide that into a few points for the students to know what IFS officers as Indian diplomats posted abroad they do. So what are our functions? We represent India in the embassies, high commissions, consulates, and permanent missions to multilateral organizations like UN. So that is our primary work. We are representing India in all these organizations. Our second work is that we protect India's national interest in the country that we are posted. I'm ambassador to Romania, and of course, I look after Moldova and Albania also. So, as an Indian diplomat, that is one of my primary roles, protecting India's national interest. And when I say national interest, it means security and prosperity. So, anything that I am doing, I should ask myself this question: am I adding to the security of India? Am I adding to the prosperity of India? Because diplomacy can't act in a vacuum. It has to have some result. So anything that I do, I should be also like Gandhiji used to say that the work that you do, whatever you do, you should have the face of the poorest man in front of you, and then you should ask yourself, what is that you are adding to make his life better? So that is what prosperity of the country means. So that's the second word. The third is, of course, we promote political, commercial, and cultural ties between India and the countries that we are posted in. So in my case, again, Romania, Albania, and Moldova. The fourth role that we play is to promote friendly relations with the receiving state. In my case, again, Romania, Albania, and Moldova, as also the people of these countries, including NRIs and PIOs. The fifth role that we play is to report accurately on the developments in the country of the country where we are posted, which are likely to influence the formulation of India's policies. Because we have to keep track of when we are posted in countries abroad, we have to keep track of what is happening in that country, what are the relations of this country with other countries, because that helps us decide what our foreign policy would be towards that region or that country. Then the fifth role, I hope is the fifth, okay, fifth role, yeah. Fifth role is that we negotiate agreements also, which on various issues with the authorities of the receiving state. The agreements form the legal basis for cooperation between countries. So right now in Romania, for example, we have a list of agreements that we have, but then some of the agreements that we are working on is a defense cooperation agreement. We don't right now have an agreement in the field of health. We don't have. India has been one of the initiators of what is called the International Solar Alliance. Romania is not a member, so we are working on that also. So that and when we have all these framework agreements, whether it's like extradition treaty, whether it is a double taxation avoidance treaty, it facilitates businesses at the same time relationships between countries. So that is the next work that we do. Last but not the least is, of course, we provide consular services to both foreigners and Indian nationals abroad. So foreigners, when they go to India, whether they require a visa or whether they require some facilitation to go to India, that is one of our jobs that we do. But at the same time, we provide uh, consular facilities to Indian nationals. The diaspora of originating from India is the largest in the world. It is about 33 million. And of course, in any country that we are posted, we have a diaspora. Even in Romania, we have a diaspora. So we provide consular facilities to Indians and people of Indian origin who are abroad. So this is broadly what we as IFS officers do when we are posted abroad or when we are in the Ministry of External Affairs. So I talked in the beginning about the past of diplomacy, how it has been there around for 4,000 or 5,000 years, and because of that momentum, it will continue to influence, to be an influential service in the world, more so in the Indian context. Then I told you about what the jobs of Indian Foreign Service officers or Indian diplomats are. So right now I will go on to answering the question, which is the topic of today. Why the role of diplomats and especially Indian diplomats will continue to grow in the future. You see, right now we might be the fourth or the fifth or the sixth largest economy in the world, but 25 years down the line or 30 years down the line, say in the year 2050, India would be the second largest in terms of purchasing power parity, the second largest economy in the world. We would have surpassed by then even the United States. So as countries become bigger in terms of their economy, as they become more influential, their role in the international arena increases. One example I will give you is about what happens in the media. When, say, 20 years ago, when I had joined the service and I used to watch television in India, we would have very little coverage on what is happening in the world outside. So that was not something which evoked a lot of interest in India. But now, if you open any television, you will see. In fact, there are television channels, toppers in there, which are exclusively devoted to foreign policy. But followed have every channel prepared for the civil service exam, and they have cracked it. So how can one be focused? You should keep a prepare a timetable, and say if you are preparing in 2-3 years, then have a timetable for 2-3 years. And it does not mean that every day you have to update that timetable, but a timetable which will say that in the first year you will complete, say, maybe the NCERT books, and then in the next year you come with all these guide books, and then you say that in the next 6 months you will complete the first time. You complete first time, in the next 3 months you do a second revision, third time you do another revision. My strategy was that, because I did, maybe, for example, if I had chemistry as one of my optional, and if I was going for civil, say, preliminary exam, before the exams I would have done at least maybe 6 or 7 revisions, because the first time I study, I go in detail for in the first 3 months. In the next 1 month, I do one revision. Next 15 days, I do one revision till the day of the exam. So just the day before the exam, I do a quick revision. So that is how you are able to retain, because the syllabus is huge. And without revising, you might understand everything, but unless you have revised everything, you won't be able to crack it. So that's the mantra. Be anything. Be consistent. No matter what exam is like this, if everyone knows the mantra of having a good physique, isn't it? So what is the mantra of being healthy? The mantra is that every day you exercise for, say, 1 hour. If I, out of 10 people, if I tell everyone, okay, do you know what is the mantra for getting a good body? They will say, yes, exercise. So exercise for 1 hour every day for 1 year. And out of that 10 people, all of will know the secret. But out of that 10 people, after 6 months, you would see that just two are left. And after a year, you will see that only one person has actually used that secret to become physically fit. So civil service exam is like that. You have to be consistent. You know the secret. You know what the syllabus is. You get the right books and keep on studying that. You will feel demotivated at times, or as I said, after 5 6 months, you will feel that, okay, I'm studying for 6 hours. Is it worth it? No, it is worth it. So keep on preparing for that. The other point of motivation which I used to ask myself and answer this question to myself is I was studying, for example, I was doing my post graduation in computer applications, and that was not something that I liked. And I always had this charm for Indian foreign service. So I used to ask myself this question: if not IFS or the foreign service, will I like any other job? No, I had studied chemistry. I liked the theory of it, but the practical part was somehow I was very bad at it. At the same time, I had tried computers. I found that that was not something that fascinated me. What fascinated me was what foreign service provides. Number one is that it gives you an opportunity to live abroad. At the same time, it gives you an opportunity. It's the only service which gives you an opportunity to have linkages with India and serve India. So you are serving India while you are abroad. So that used to be my motivation. That yes, this is the dream service for me, and this is what I'm looking at. So every time I felt that I'm low in terms of motivation, I used to tell myself that IFS is the only job that I want, because I'm not fit for any other service, and that used to motivate me. There's a question from Arya Singh Baghel. We can pass civil service even if we take it as an exam, we need to crack it. But what about the interview part? Interview, don't worry, because interview is, again, no one is telling you that you should give an interview which is where you will become the CEO of Google, because they'll be asking you technical questions and you can't answer. No, if you have prepared well for civil services, you will see that most part of your interview is also covered, because it's like a question and answer session that we are having right now. You are asking me questions, I'm answering. So if you are prepared well, you know what your priorities are. The questions you will be able to answer, and they are not looking at. You should not look like a model to be there. Rather, that may actually be counterproductive. You may not have the best English in the world, but you should be able to convey, because interviews are even conducted in regional language if you want. If you prefer that, I think you can give interviews. So don't worry about that. Interview part is, I think, not a very difficult part if you have prepared well for the civil services. Many people had cracked the exam but couldn't pass the interview. No, interview is not like that. Interview is not that you have to pass the interview and then you will get into the civil service. The marks are aggregated. So your main exam marks will be added to your interview marks, and together, if you have, and again I can give you examples. Even in my batch, there were some people who had very high ranks, but in the interview they had got very less. There was actually one person in a batch who could have got Indian police service even without appearing for interview, because his marks in the main exams were very high. So when the interview happened, he didn't get very high marks, but then it was good enough for him to get a very in the top 10 he was there, because he got very less marks, but then he was able to crack the exam. So don't worry about the interview. Any more questions, or that's all? Okay, I think there are no more questions, so we will call it a day. And it was nice interacting with all of you. I hope that many of you will be inspired to write the civil services exam, and I hope that some of you would join the Indian Foreign Service. So all the best to everyone. Thank
Sir,
you.
before wind up, one more thing. Our director, sir, is there.
Okay.
Engineer Arvind Singh, sir. He was in educational service. I should say that he is a man of service, dedicated to education. So last 25 years, he was just in the field of education. And he was also the award winner, global award winner for life achievement from New Zealand. So I would like to over
Good evening, Rahul sir. Good evening, and good evening to Principal sir. I heartily welcome to Rahul Srivastava sir for such a nice event for our school and our dear student. And we are thinking that how much he is interested towards the India, because he conducted a session for an Indian school, even though he's sitting in foreign. So kindly all of you clap for him, that he is taking very eagerly towards the India. So thanks God for all. I think
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, bye.
and whenever we take your help for our student, for our team. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Actually, I would also just would like to say one quality of our sir, which I inspired personally. Actually, I was just following his social network the platform. So whatever it is happening in Romania, if you could have been go through Rahul sir the social network the platform, we can find each and everything. And no other diplomat I have ever seen in my life. Even there is the Romania is one of the countries in Europe. I also visited Europe, but we are also very